Good afternoon, wherever you are on the planet right now. This is John Dupuy, and let me get this right. It is the 21st of September 2016. I hope I got that right. And on Earth time, and here we are, another week and another period of time to wake up, right? To show up, to grow up, to clean up and do the work. Hi, Pam. You look beautiful today. Yeah. So anyway, there's just so much to talk about, and I never quite know where these things are going to go. But anyway, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and it seems to be working. Maybe I'll talk more about that. In my opinion, anyway, I feel happier and I feel lighter and better. So been working through some stuff, which is great. And so which direction do I want to go in today? There's so much to talk about. I just got off the phone with just a really brilliant man, American, but lives in Uruguay now. And we had a wonderful conversation. And we were talking about, the need for a lot of things. Let's start with, for example, let's talk about the United States now. That's where I am and where I'm from. Among other places, I've lived a lot of places, other overseas, and I'm also in a real sense from there also. But we're having it's really coming into focus now, the whole racism thing, in our culture, and you have Kaepernick, I think a quarterback for the 49ers, who a black man who started sitting at the when they're playing the national anthem, and it's a big thing. And he said, "I'm doing this because just protesting the police violence against unarmed black people, black men mainly." And it just happened again last night, And at first it was kind of, it was, you can't do that, disrespecting the country, but it keeps going on. And I used to be a cop. I used to be a military policeman. So I know what the appropriate use of force or deadly force is. And that ain't it. And all these instances, and it's just ridiculous. And maybe it's always been going on, but because we have the internet now and everything's connected and everybody has phones that can broadcast that, it's really coming to light. But all that to say, we outlawed slavery, with the, back during the Civil War and the Abraham Lincoln and et cetera. And we've had the civil rights movement, and we've had an African-American president and family in the White House for almost 8 years now. And obviously there's been some great progress has been made in the exteriors and legal this and that and the other. But when we're talking integral, which is the model we use here, developed by Ken Will, we talk about the four quadrants, and the upper right's the physical body, and the lower right's laws and legislation and infrastructure and schools and housing and all of this stuff. And the United States, we've done a lot on that end, but in the left hand of the quadrant, which deals with the upper left is your interior individual, and the lower left is your communal we space, we really suck. We really neglected it, and we've been very active in creating a lot of stuff, but we haven't done the interiors. And basically, when you get down to it, you cannot legislate racism and hatred away. It's an inside job. At some point we have to say, we can't just argue and, blah, blah, blah. It's got to be our interiors that heal, so that we realize, there's no white people, black people, gay people, straight people, Mexican people, Latin people, this, Jewish people, whatever. We're all the same. We're all the one. There's only one of us here. And that takes interior work. And, the whole purpose of iAwake from the very beginning was to make that kind of transformational interior work where we go inside and we deal with our woundings, we deal with our stories, we deal with our cultural junk, all of that stuff. and we deal with our goodness, and we deal with our love, and we deal with our compassion, and we deal with the deep wisdom that resides in each and every one of us. And we bring that forward and work through our stuff so that we can really approach the world in a compassionate, wise, and courageous way that can begin to make progress, not only on the exterior things, but also the interiors and in our culture and in our caring and caring for and loving one another, which is what it's really about. And And I saw this morning on the internet, some of the news things I follow, they had another unarmed black man with his hands up. It was a gun down, God help us, God help us to come together as a human family and as an American family. We can start there, We can learn to love each other and respect each other as Americans, and maybe that can flow over the borders, right? And we are one planet, one world, but it's like, what do you do with this stuff? It's like you see it, and there it is again. You just like push it away. No, I can't deal with that. I got to work today, but it's happening. It's still happening. So, anyway, I want to, part of me when Kaepernick was sitting down in the beginning, I had my, I was a soldier and, I love my country and all that stuff. But God bless him for being courageous, and putting his career on the line, and to help us, maybe not just have the conversation, but actually begin to change things. Okay. And, so how do we whip racism to start with? Well, we have to acknowledge it within ourselves and, clean it up, and go deeper than our own stories, go deeper than our own neurosis, go deeper than our own cultural, identifications, and go down to the place where, like I was saying earlier, we all are one, and that we need to love one another, and we need to respect one another, and we need to, glory in the diversity of this incredible country, that is a great country. We don't need a fascist dictator to make it great again, I'll leave out names of who the obvious person I'm talking about, but we do need to work on ourselves, and we also need to reach out and to reach across the barriers and reach across the fear and reach across these things. And we need to, tell our police officers, put your fucking guns away for a while, okay? Stop shooting people. You don't need to be shot, all right? So just stop it. It's serve and protect, okay? And I know there's fear, and I think some of the responsibility goes to these broadcasting folks like Fox News and Limbaugh and his ilk that have been pouring fuel of fear and prejudice and hatred and resentment, with his dog whistle stuff for decades now. And I've seen how that stuff infects people's minds and takes, otherwise good, caring people and makes them scared and makes them of others, of other races and other types of people and of everything in the world. And they become reactive and they become angry and hateful. And that sort of thing. That's what gave rise to the Nazi Party in Germany in the 20s and 30s, and a little earlier than that, Italy, the rise of fascism and Mussolini. So Anyway, I didn't expect to go here, obviously. Well, maybe not obvious. It's very obvious to me. I didn't expect to go here. So let's figure it out, you know. And I think that the integral map created by Ken Wilber and company gives us a beautiful way of understanding the dynamics that are going on. And when you understand, then we can begin to act a little more skillfully. It's not easy, but at least it's not what, you know, you can understand that, but also the responsibility of each of us to show up in the best possible way that we can be. And as John Lennon said, you know, we get to choose whether we're part of the solution or part of the problem. And an unexamined life, as the Greeks say, is not worth living. I don't know if the Greeks said that, but they said, maybe they did. But it's true. And not only examining, but the unredeemed life, the untransformed life, the unevolved life, the unawakened life. And I'm not talking about awakening in the sense that, behold, I'm enlightened and I've stepped off the wheel, and sorry about the rest of you guys. And, or if you want, you know, you can, I'll turn you on to my greatness. But I'm talking about a real whole-bodied human awakening that includes the heart, that includes the mind, that includes the body, that includes ethics, that includes the earth, that includes all human beings and all sentient beings. And that's the task. And I think that as we, you know, you don't know, I mean, what can one individual do? You know, how much can each, how much effect can each one of us have individually? Well, I don't know. You know, that's God's problem. But what our responsibility is to show up and to clean ourselves up and to wake up and to show up and do the necessary work and do the necessary sacrifice. And if we're weak and unmotivated, get the support we need from community, from a coach, from a counselor, from a friend to become what we are. If not, we tend to fade away into fear and cynicism. And that is a prison. That's a horrible place to live, you know. And I could see myself going there, you know, quite easily if I didn't practice as much as I do. And I do practice just what I do now. I've noticed, you know, I get around 7:30 in the morning, or 7 this morning, and it's like, my dog Lucy, our dog Lucy, she's there with us, and I have to go take her on a run. And whether I feel like it or not, or whether I stayed up later or not, I get out of bed and we're out running around the wilderness, you know, watching the sun come up, which is, you know, it's brilliant. But it's just, I just notice how conditioned I am to practice. And then I get back and then I do my interior meditation stuff. And then I have one of these little exercise trampolines. I do for about 7 minutes just to get the physical body engaged. And then later on, I'll go and do my, my physical exercise. And I'm also meditating in the afternoon. Well, today. I'm going to do another meditation session because I've been working on some issues that have been dogging me for about a year and a half. And this is interesting. You know, a lot of our tracks in iAwake tracks have this bilateral movement going from left hemisphere to right hemisphere. And so what I've done is been listening to the tracks. I've been our earliest one. PMP, Profound Meditation Program 2.0. It's very, very powerful in that. And you go to YouTube, you have these EMDR visuals where you have a ball going back and forth, you know, and you're, you know, this eye movement thing that they found is very good at working with PTSD is there on YouTube. So I'm using the iAwake tracks while I'm doing this stuff, and I've only been doing it for a couple of days, and I've noticed that I'm really starting to get a shift. You know, a lot of the things, it's a lot of things that happened around my father's death about, was it 2 years ago, Pam? Has it been that long? Maybe not quite, maybe just about, yeah. Yeah, it has been. Gosh, seems like it was yesterday. And that's one, when you said it seems like it's yesterday, that's one of the indications that you're dealing with PTSD. Okay, because memories are supposed to be, fresh and new, and then they get processed and stored in a part of the brain where you have the memories, but it doesn't have that emotional charge. And with PTSD, it's like, you're back in the foxhole, you're in the accident, you're back, when your father abused you or whatever the trauma was. And it's like, just like it's there in the physiological responses is there, and visually it's in color and you can see it. And when the brain processes the stuff, then it gets set in another place in the brain where it's supposed to be, and it's processed and it's moved on, and there's a memory, you're aware of it, but it no longer has the power to make you ill and make you depressed and make you anxious and all these other things. So I've actually been working with that concertedly, using our technologies and these things. And so I've had this whole maybe calling to do another product dealing specifically with that, where we use the terrific stuff that we have, but we do it with the visual stuff as a way of helping both sides of the brain to come on, as bilateral use of our brain, which is like, the masculine, feminine, left and right, yin and yang, however you want to do that. And that's grossly simplifying it, but it still seems to be holding that the left and right brains are like we've been thinking they are, is that the left is principally dealing with more linear, intellectual, that sort of thought, and the right is a more intuitive, artistic, receptive, that part of the brain. So you put those together and you process this information, and it doesn't get dissociated merely as an intellectual thing, and you're dissociated from the body, and it doesn't just get caught up in just the emotional part, but you bring them together and the brain processes that, and you have transcendence, and transcend and include. It's still there, but it's processed, and then when we get through that, then this stuff is it teaches us, we learn wisdom, because everybody suffers, it's not poor John. Oh, he suffered, death and pain and trauma. Man, that's just a human condition. So as we learn to deal with that in holistically receptive and wise way, we understand how to do it. And now we have of course we have the technologies and the understanding of the brain, as well as the ancient wisdom traditions that inform us of the ultimate goal of the journey. And we really have something, and we can come together. So anyway, I think, my goodness, that was quite a lot, and I could go on, but if there's any questions or comments, or Pam, if you have anything, tell people how they can participate.
Wow. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm good.
If you're on the Zoom and up with the webcast video part, there's a place where you can raise your hand and then open up your mic, or we can open up your mic. I'm not sure if you can do it yourself or not. But anyway, raise your hand if you have a question or comment. And then if you're on the phone, you hit the *2 button. No, sorry, that was the old system. *6. *6 if you're on the phone mutes and unmutes you.
Yeah, we've got a message that says our volume is very distant. Can we turn up our volume?
My volume. Do I sound weak to you, John, my voice?
No, there's just somebody in the chat room, in the chat space said that.
Yeah, no, okay. I just wanted to know. Yeah, let me just read this. Thank you. Is it possible to give the title on YouTube that John is referring to? Are you looking that up to see what video you're using?
Yeah, and there's a couple of questions here. Can you let me know? Well, anyway, Pam. Yeah, it says, thank you. Is it possible to give a title on YouTube that John is referring to? Having a back and forth. Yeah, just go EMDR on YouTube, and there's a bunch of them. And yeah, and I've liked all the ones that I've used thus far. Some of them just go back and forth, and others go back and forth for a while. Then it says it's going to be vertical, and it does this, and then others go around, and it does all this stuff. And so your eyes are just. And the thing is, you want to. The practice is this: you bring up as much as possible whatever trauma, whatever thing that you're dealing with, And I'm pretty good at doing that because I've been doing, this iAwake or brain training meditation for 11 years now. And so I can really access that stuff. And then you just kind of hold it there and hold the memories and the visuals in your mind's eye, and the feelings come up, and then just keep your head steady. You don't go like this. Just keep your steady, and you let your eyes do the work and follow it through. And that seems to get the memory out of the amygdala, where it's like it's instant survival, powerful, repetitious, coming up all the time, and gets it processed through this bilateral thing into parts of the brain where it's stored in a way that's healthy. And also, I think when your amygdala is all full of this traumatic stuff, it just absorbs a lot of your energy, your life energy, your mental energy, and we become ill, because we're made to process this stuff. So just go EMDR on YouTube, and bam, you got a bunch of stuff. And I'm not the expert. I've just been using it for a while. And a few weeks back, I started trying to do this myself. I was meditating, but I found that the YouTube things are better than my fingers. And apparently that's what Freud was doing back in the early days of his career, back in the 1890s. And they were doing hypnotism or mesmerism with their clients, and they were getting cures. They're doing really, really freaking well. And then because a bunch of cultural, political, weird stuff that came up, Freud felt that he had to abandon hypnotism. And then he started taking cocaine for a couple of years, did quite a bit of that. And he thought that was great, as many people who've done cocaine or been addicted to cocaine understand what that experience is like. And during his cocaine period is when he developed a lot of the basic theoretical stuff of Freudian psychology, the Oedipus complex and the ego stuff, and which a lot of has not really panned out, or not really, it's kind of not. Anyway, I have some issues with Freudian theory, and I don't think it's been widely adapted. Although there are some pure Freudian therapists left on the planet, but they're rather rare. And then he got into talking therapy, which, if who's ever been to talking therapy, I've been trained as a therapist, Pam's a therapist, been to therapy. It only goes so far. It's good for some things, and it's really not good for a whole bunch of other things. So anyway, we're kind of getting back to this, very interesting, getting back to kind of the roots of the first effective kind of treatments in modern psychology movement. That began with Freud and Breuer. It was his mentor. And anyway, so I digress. Where were we talking about here? Oh, we're talking about, go to EMDR on YouTube. And let me know. This is very important, because I was talking with Javi Otero, that you guys know, hopefully our CTO, and talking about we need to, because we have some great stuff that's really, really good for dealing with trauma in bilateral, and I think at the same time, when you're doing the bilateral stuff, but you're taking you down to these deep meditative states where you can become very mindful at the same time. That's another tremendous gift. But we need to develop something specifically or maybe we just need to develop a beautiful a visual thing. You go to the website and use that while you use the audio tracks, and make that available. And we have what's the name of our young genius, Ming? Is that right? Oh, there's this fantastic guy that we're gonna be using him for our intro and outros on the website. And he's a Chai German. His family came from China, and now they live in Germany. And he creates some of the most spectacular visual, moving, flowing imagery that I've ever seen. It's breathtaking. And you can also see him on YouTube, right, Pam?
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to look it up, put the link in there when I can.
Yeah, so check that out. So I want to work with this guy, because he's incredible, and he brings it. He's like I can't remember the artist, but anyway. So any other questions or comments? I'll stop talking.
Yeah, I'm going to put that video in here. When you have a chance, don't watch it now, but watch it later. I was really strongly impacted by it. I think it's, we interviewed him for Spiritual Technologies 2.0, and this is where he shared this.
Yeah, my comment was that it was like Alex Gray on acid, which is pretty funny if you know Alex Gray, because he's a anyway, he's a very psychedelic artist.
But anyway, Ming, he had a really profound spiritual opening. He was about 19 or 20. And because he's a graphic visual artist, he wanted to somehow convey that experience, but actually sort of to help people awaken through visual arts. And so that's what this video kind of represents, his journey. But he's also working to make them kind of psychoactive. So yeah, check out Ming's stuff. Thanks, Taya. I'm glad that you've checked that out.
Yeah, thanks, Taya.
Yeah, so listen, for those that are on here, you know, this doesn't need to, if you have simple questions, you know, like how do you use PMP3, those are fine questions to ask. We've been at this for years, and so we tend to get into all kinds of subjects, but know that it can be really basic questions and comments. How do you work with the technology? How do you meditate? All that kind of stuff.
Thanks, Fawn. Oh, let me use this to everyone. This is Fawn just texted this in there. It says, I'm very grateful to you both. I've been using Profound Meditation 3.0 for almost a year, along with others, and feel your clear intentions and heart behind everything you're making available. Mahalo. Well, mahalo back. Definitely. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So if you have a comment or a question, again, just there's a place where you can raise your hand. And I don't know if you can unmute yourself or not, but anyway, if you raise your hand, I'll unmute you if you can. Maybe while I'm waiting, just let you know, we are finally launching World Kirtan, the album, tomorrow. This has been something, we started recording it last August, and finally got the tech infused into it this August. And anyway, so it's been a labor of love.
And we're having the album release party at our home on Friday. So you guys can come to Utah. Hey, you're all invited.
Right. Anyway, so it's kind of a interesting project, because I love doing, we have this local group that does kirtan. We do chanting from many different traditions. And I wanted to combine the practice that we did with iAwake's technology, and I think it's kind of amazing. So anyway,
you know, and music is very transformative. They finally dissected Einstein's brain, which he dedicated to science, just about a year or so ago, and they found that his frontal lobes, as you might suspect, are really fat and thick, and his corpus callosum, the part that connects the left and right hemisphere of the brain, was also very thick and developed. And one of the things that they also find similar development in the brains of musicians. And Einstein was a lifelong passionate violin player. So, you know, you're doing all of this stuff. And I'm a passionate lead guitarist, and you know, it's the complexity and the beauty of that takes me into very wonderful spaces, and I attribute a lot of my ability to get into those musical flow states that I couldn't do for years, actually, is because of the iAwake practice that I do, and that kind of woke my brain up, so I'm able to really get into music in a much more surrendered, experiential way than I did, you know. And I was a singer-songwriter for years, and I think I recorded 3 albums worth of music. And Pam knew me when we first met. I was writing songs like a maniac, and then as I got older, you know, into my mid 40s and approaching 50, a lot of that went away, and it was like, oh, what happened to the magic? You know, it's just gone. I can't write anymore, can't play anymore. Nothing seems to be alive. And then when I began to do the practice of brain entrainment and the integral practice, my love, you know, for music and my understanding of the place of music in my life, it's just come. And every moment I get when I'm, you know, here at my desk, I have my amplifier and my guitars, and I'll play, you know, I'll play with Jimi Hendrix on YouTube or anybody else in the world I want to, you know, I have Apple Music, so I have access to a large part of our recorded heritage as human beings is all available there. So I play a lot, you know, and practice. So anyway.
Hey John, we've got a question here from Fawn.
Okay.
She says, would you suggest the visual with both profound renewal and profound release?
That's a really good idea. And kind of the intuitive hit that I've gotten from just reading about this, experimenting with the last just few days, is that it's not just for trauma, but it's also for optimizing. So you could bring a vision forward of yourself. Like, who do you really want to be? Who is your deepest vision of yourself, and who's the human being that you're supposed to be? What is your gift, to the world, your actualized self, the best version of yourself that you can be at this stage in your life and what you're working on, and kind of see that, and then and do this stuff. So I think that might be really, I think that might be a really good idea, and I'd really love to hear your feedback on it, how it worked for you, because I'm reading about this stuff, and I'm doing the practice with the technologies that we have, and I'm having a really great time. I'm experiencing some great stuff. So just to prove to myself that I'm not psychotic and I'm just imagining all this stuff, if we have a community of practitioners that have similar experiences, then we can start putting that together as anecdotal evidence. And I don't dismiss anecdotal. Oh, it's only anecdotal. No, anecdotal is like essential. You need the other stuff too, but yeah, you need the interior experience shared with what's going on with people when we do the practices. Very valuable. Thank you. Cool.
Thanks, thanks, Fawn. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Hey, Fawn. Yeah, Ken's book, I've been working through that, Integral Meditation. It's really cool. It's, for those of you who know Ken and are doing the practice, I think you'll find it really rewarding because, you can, Ken used to say, you can't see your developmental levels from within you. You kind of need an outer thing that says, this is traditional mythic thought, this is modern, this is postmodern, this is postmodern, this is pre-modern. You can't see it. Well, once you know the map, you certainly can see it. You have a thought that comes up and you go, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Well, that's a very kind of red or blue or this thought. And then not necessarily bad, but you can really begin to be, mindful. And what's mindful? Mindful is thought becoming aware of thought. Okay. So yeah, you can actually work on these different levels of yourself. And one thing about the developmental scale, I'm on one today, but anyway, is that when we begin to do the work, you begin to realize that you go back and see your own growth patterns, and you realize that there were wounds and there were deficits. So whatever level you're currently at, if you didn't have really healthy development through all the earlier stuff, the whole foundation of the building can be really weak, and it can cause a lot of damage and could collapse under stress. And so we can actually go back and use the interior practices and use integral meditation and use the technology to rebuild those structures, good enough to weather the storm and to accomplish and do the things and be the people that we need to be. And is that, oh, cool. Well, okay. Any other questions or comments? Oh, and okay. I'll wait a few more seconds. Yeah, by the way, I've been, as I was saying, that I was using PMP 2.0 when I was doing this EMDR type of meditation the last few days, and it's really good stuff. That was the first thing that we ever produced. And
it was actually the second.
Was it? What was the first?
We had 1.0 and then we had 2.0.
I don't even remember one. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm talking about 2.0. Sometimes we just start when we did Spirit Tech Talks, we did Spirit Tech Talks 2.0, which I never figured out why, because it was the first time we ever did it. But I think 2.0 sounds a little more evolved than 1.0. I don't know. But anyway, it's a really good, they're wonderful tracks. They're very powerful. And
My
I think,
favorite tracks, actually.
yeah, I think we should do a release, and just because,
A re-release.
3.0 is like incredible. And I use that all the time too. And I was talking to someone this morning, I think it was Javi, and I said, just because Sgt. Pepper's was a fantastic album doesn't mean that Rubber Soul was, not good. Great also. So anyway, so think about 2.0, and I think we should have a classic release for that, just to get it back for the, the generations of folks that have come and are using the technology that never experienced it. And you got to turn me on to 1.0 too. I don't think I have that in my devices. So
I'll have to look for that.
yeah. Well, anyway.
Hold on, we've got another question here.
Okay.
This is from Suave Dave. He says, "Hi, John, everyone. This is my first time on Zoom. I'm the guy from Marinda you so kindly responded to yesterday. I'm in Mahalo now and usually sleep at 7 a.m. Please tell me about Profound Renewal. Not familiar with that one." I'm going to put the link in here.
Okay, well, Profound Renewal is one of our more recent releases. And Joe... Ko. Right, I was going to say Tao, but anyway, Ko is one of our colleagues and one of our creators of tracks, and he is English. He's from the UK, and he's a very gifted hypnotherapist, as well as a creator of entrainment sounds and entrainment music. So he takes Profound Renewal. It's the practice of just he walks you through this while your brain's in training, and they're relatively short tracks, but it just gets you into a deep place of relaxation, and then where you come back renewed with energy, and which is really great. And I found that even before that was my experience. And sometimes when I'm meditating, if I'm really exhausted, if I just allow myself to be exhausted and don't try to fight it, you've got to stay on it. And I just kind of get really relaxed, and then I just kind of go down, and boom, I come back. It's my energy's renewed. And so he's really worked with that principle in a really beautiful way. So if you're having, a lot of us have that kind of down period in the afternoons or something, and if we don't have the possibility of taking a nap or doing something like that, or going off and running off in the woods or something, you can actually use these tracks just to bring back your energy and your focus.
He actually is inspired to do this because he's a young father. He just had his second child and was struggling to juggle family and work and everything. And so that was part of the inspiration for developing this. But there's both guided meditation in there, as well as just the audio tracks with that.
Okay, suave is not suave. Suave. Suave reminds me of Dave. So Suave. Suave Dave. Hopefully I said that right. Okay.
Mahalo is Hilo. Okay, that's good to know too. Hey, by the way, on our World Kirtan album that we're releasing, 2 of the chants are Hawaiian. And quite beautiful. Okay. Any other Suave Dave, did that
Lori,
answer your question?
Did you have something?
Yeah, so I unmuted myself, so I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. But
loud and clear.
We
it's
can
great.
hear you. Hi, Larry.
Oh, great. I just wanted to chime in a little bit on 2.0. So I started with 2.0, and it was actually quite powerful for me. Been using the products ever since, and probably have everything in your library, but not 1.0. I don't have 1.0. So if you resurrect that, let me know.
If I find it, I'll just send it to you.
But I wanted to chime in there on the EMDR, because I've also done that. It's part of my, I guess, just prior to starting with 2.0. And I really found that it was a little bit overwhelming for me. Sitting in a lot of trauma, that kind of thing. But as I moved into 2.0, it really, I was doing EMDR at the same time, not, at the same time consecutively, but in the course of a week. And it was really a way to help me release, and I found the releasing tracks amazing to help me process what I was processing with the EMDR. So, and
that's what they were designed for. So good.
Yeah. So it was very helpful for me. And one of the other things I just wanted to kind of share there was when you were talking about using other practices along with the technology, is I obviously read a lot on this topic, and there's a book out there called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's systems, so like structures. So he talks in that book about, and I think it's Bessel
Vanderkolk.
Yeah, thank you. So anyway, what he's talking about there, one of the practices that he uses to help people with trauma or heal trauma is something called structures. I think that's what he calls it, but it's basically bringing everybody into the room or having people play different parts. But I would do that in my meditation. So I would here's my mother, here's my father, here's my teacher, here's my brother, and rotate around and see things from all those perspectives while having the headphones on, doing that type of practice. And I'll tell you, it really brought something from a different perspective for me to be able to see, and just wanted to share that.
That's brilliant. You should write a paper on it or write an article or something. We'll put it on the website. That's really brilliant stuff. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And we're learning more and more. It's about collaboration, and Spirit Tech 2.0 really opened a lot of doors for us with people who are doing other types of transformational technologies. And so we're going to this conference, and hopefully we'll connect. So it's not like it's only us, but if we put it together and bring these things together, we'll do all these things that we're trying to do. Heal, wake up, be creative, be effective, be wise, be compassionate, all of this stuff. We'll do it better. And it's really interesting how at this kind of critical stage in our human history, and you can say, well, people have been whacking each other since time began or whatever. Well, maybe so, but we now have the technologies to make that, the human pathology, hatred, just absolutely, really, really, really endangering to all life on the planet. So, technology can be used obviously to destroy and do bad things, but now we're learning it can be used to heal and to wake up and to deepen and to do the things that I guess the religious vehicles are always trying to do. I mean, in religion in its healthy sense, to make us the kind of human beings that are fit to inhabit this beautiful world that we have. So anyway, it's a very interesting time to be alive and to be going through this adventure together. So that might be a nice place to wrap this up. So if nobody has any, and thank you for being with me and my heart, my feelings, and all of that stuff. And God help us not to turn away, but to make our voices heard and do what we can do to heal this country of ours. So, and our world, of course. Anyway, love you all. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.
God bless.